Right, we've been talking this month about movement, exercise, walking, air squats. We're going to try to tie it all together and talk about why it's all so important. We've talked about lots of the health benefits, the blood pressure, the depression. I think we may have even mentioned the sleep through the circadian rhythm of seeing the sun if we can go out and do it then. So let's talk more specifically today about strength training. Obviously at this point, I hope you got it, that in your mind that as a good CEO, movement every day, every hour, every 30 minutes even is very beneficial. Exercise is very beneficial. Movement can be as simple as walking. But what we want to think about is now adding some what we call strength training or resistance training. And again, you can have fancy equipment or you can not have fancy equipment. We can use body weight. We talked about the air squats with the walk. At each corner we would do 10 air squats or 10 push-ups or 10 pull-ups or whatever those are body weight strength training exercises. We can do isometric strength training exercises. Those would be things like a wall sit or holding a plank, those type of things where you're holding something with resistance so that you're building different types of muscles. And there was a study of 5,200 healthy adults out of the Journal of the American Heart Association that showed that strength training, specifically where we're trying to build more muscle, could reduce blood pressure. Now, we talked about it being reduced with walking, and now we see that strength training can also reduce blood pressure. And the numbers on the top number, what we talked about being the heart at work or systolic number, can be reduced between 1.8 and 10.9 millimeters of mercury. And so that's a really big deal because normal blood pressure would be considered 120 or below on top and 80 or below on bottom. And that study went on to say that the higher the blood pressure was starting, the more lowering effect the strength training had out of those 5,200 healthy adults. And also found that those isometric exercises that we talked about, where you're holding something, can do more to decrease blood pressure than things we would typically think of, like the air squats we've talked about, or the resistance bands, or the push-ups or the pull-ups. Not that any of those are wrong. It's just that the isometric, the hold exercises, seem to have more effect on lowering blood pressure. So, to conclude, we try to give you an action step every single month. And the first video this month, was to make sure you're walking a minimum of 10 minutes twice a day. Now I would love for you to think about your muscles as your bank account for aging, and we want to build those muscles, and we can do it all within that 10-minute walk twice a day. We can do the air squats, we can do the planks, we can do the push-ups, we can do a wall sit. We'll call it a tree sit if we're out, in a park or something. So just making sure that we understand how critically important movement is, how critically important building muscle is, and how important it can be to combine those into one really simple, easy, daily routine that you don't need any expensive equipment. You don't need any equipment at all, really. Now, if you enjoy going to the gym, lifting weights, doing back squats, front squats, shoulder presses, those are awesome. And by all means do it. But for those folks who don't like to exercise or don't like to do those things, you really don't have to. We just got to get you moving. We got to get you thinking about movement. We talked about how good it is for everything but lowering your blood pressure. I mean, who would have thought maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years ago that strength training was good for our cardiovascular system, good for our heart, good for our blood pressure? We would have thought of running, walking, swimming, doing those things, but actually it's just strength training. It's proven in this study to be very effective at lowering our blood pressure and increasing our cardiovascular health. Which, remember, the reason that this movement is so important, the number one killer in America to this day, it remains heart disease. The number one killer in the world, as a matter of fact, is heart disease. So we really need to take this serious, and I hope you'll take that action step. 10 minutes, twice a day, simple walking. If you will add in the resistance training with it, that makes everything even better. So it's a beautiful day here today, and I'm going to encourage you wherever you are to make it a beautiful day and go out for a quick walk and add some squats.